Right, I guess we should get started then. All right, well, welcome. Um, and I'm just really happy to be here and talk to you about MyOpenMath today. So this is the second session. So I think one of the goals today is to go more into sort of the, sort of get to work and maybe see if we can get some of you to maybe create assignments or at least take a look at how that's done. And I wasn't sure what you all wanted to cover today, so I also have some information about how to integrate MyOpenMath into Canvas. It's specific to Canvas because that's what I use, but there's also a lot of information out there if you're using a different learning system. But actually, if I can ask, do you use Canvas? Because I saw there were some. Okay.
Yeah, we all use Canvas.
Okay. I assumed also because I know there were other sessions that specifically talked about Canvas quizzes, and so great because it's very well documented. But I also, it's always nice to have the step by step. And so I don't know if I don't remember, it was 2 weeks ago, a lot have happened, but I don't know if everybody was there at the first session, and if I should go back to some of that information, and also if you all have MyOpenMath accounts already. And also just please feel free to, you can unmute or post in the chat at any time, this is, I think, really meant to be interactive, so and really for you all. So so maybe if you can give me a thumbs up if you have your MyOpenMath account set up, or let me know.
I do, I think, but I think I might have not made an instructor account. Oh, I thought I did.
Okay.
And Unji is from accounting, and then Tony, if you could put in the chat or let us know what discipline you're coming from.
I think you were there last time. Okay. Because one other thing we can explore is, how to find what's already out there. Because there's already a lot of questions that have been coded, and it's kind of nice to find your community in whichever platform that you are using. And yeah, no worries about hiding tweet. That's absolutely fine. So okay, so I think maybe I'll share just really quick some of the slides from last time, so just we're on the same page, and then because we have more time today, then we can do a sort of a deep dive into, once you log in to MyOpenMath, how to get started, and potentially also explore, how you can create your own questions or edit some of the questions that are out there once you find something that you like. So let me go back then and share my screen. I'm going to move some things around so it's easier for me to view. I have another monitor today. Okay, so here we go. So those are the slides that I had shown last time. So again, for those of you who were there last time, I don't want to do a big repeat. But also because I can share the slide, I want also to sort of navigate in terms of where you can find some of the information if you want to go back to it later. And so you're all seeing the slides. So this is from last time. So again, I'm going to go over this fairly quickly in case you were not there. So today we're talking about MyOpenMath. And so last time we were really setting up an account and figure out like really checking out the existing resources that you get once you sign up. I have also created a course that's really something to use to check out different types of questions that you can create, and you can use it and copy the content, etc. So we'll go back to that. But just again, for those of you who are brand new to MyOpenMath, this is something that was really started by math faculty and really to create content for math, but because uh, it allows for the creation of rich math content, it's actually also very good for a number of other disciplines. So I'm a physics instructor, so this was something that was really interesting for physics because we tend to have a lot of, formulas and things like that that, you know, can take time to, write out in some other editors. But the other thing was also the way that the questions that we have are formulated. It made it difficult to use something like a Canvas quiz. For example, we struggle finding ways to create, homework questions that had multi-parts. So where, you ask the first question and then your second answer depends on the first one. So we had a lot of trouble with that. Um, and and I see, yes, formula tables. Yeah, so this type of thing that, some of the other platforms were not really, um, you know, could maybe do, but that's where we sort of found the limit. And of course, we were looking for something that would be free to the students. So we landed on MyOpenMath, and we've been using the system since 2019. And it was quickly adopted by the whole department. So I'm excited to, share more about that. And so again, I said I would go over this quickly because I've already shared that last time. But these are some of the reasons why you may want to, adopt MyOpenMath. Um, I think in terms of the variety and the types of questions that you can create, there's a lot, and there's also, depending on the discipline, a lot of content that has already been created. And so, if you're a math faculty, you will find everything in there. There's so many course templates and questions that are available. And you start seeing more in other disciplines. So for example, we ended up using a couple ASCCC OERI grants to develop questions, or really to take our textbook, which was OpenStax, and create templates, course templates that would go along with that. And as I'm just, again, I was looking for different types of courses. You can see there's also more disciplines that are that have adopted MyOpenMath. Um, so um, it's fairly similar for those of you who've used, some of the platforms that you have to pay for, and you've already programmed in those. And if not, it's really easy. I shouldn't say it's very easy to pick up, but again, I would say the way that our department, everyone in the department adopted it without necessarily having any knowledge. And so for us, we had like, myself or other colleagues who programmed the questions, and everybody else was able to use them. So it's nice to have somebody who can, develop the questions and then can share potentially. But if you're brand new to this, it's also fine because there's a lot of support from the community. Um, so again, here I'm kind of assuming that you have an account, but if you do not have one, you can go to myopenmath.com. You will land on this page, and you go to request an instructor account. If you're just doing this now, it's not an instant process because they will check, but it happens fairly quickly. Um, so again, this is what we talked about. So in a minute, I will switch over to the platform to show you. But again, once you create your account, by default, you'll be enrolled in what's called the training course and the support course. And we'll take a look at those. But this is a really good place to start, um, because the support course gives you access to a lot of, you can see all the forums here. There's a lot of people there to support you if you have any questions. And it's kind of nice to know that that community is there, and you may, ask something about your discipline and may find other people who are working on something on there, who've already developed something, who would be willing to help. So I found that really, really nice, because depending on, you may already have a team working with you, but if you're on your own, that can be a little daunting. So just knowing that there are other people out there, or who may see, your question and, be interested or know of somebody who might be working on something that could help you out. And the training course really actually shows you, like how to get started also. So sort of like built in, you have that support already as you start, which I found really nice. So again, a very supportive community. So these are things that I showed you last time, and I can walk you through that again. And in fact, I will show you this just because this is a good way to look for existing courses. And I know we have people from various disciplines, so and it could be that we don't find anything or we find something sort of adjacent. But I'll show you how you can start looking um, for specific content. And this is a test course that I had created also with different types of questions to show you sort of the types of thing you can do. And not just to show you, but also to make it so that if you want to, copy a question and make it your own, because you're like, oh, I want to create this type of question. I don't want to, I would not recommend starting from scratch. I know that every time I've created a new question, I've copied from another one that was existing and modified. It's a lot easier to modify a question than just starting from scratch. So that would be my recommendation. So this is to show you the type of things you can do, but also to give you sort of a template to start with. And again, feel free to interrupt at any time if you have any questions. I'm going over this quickly because I already went over that last time, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So now catching up to today, again, this is not really 2 hours that we're going to be looking at slides. Really what I want to do is have you all hopefully join on the platform and see what we can do together today, and maybe depending on what you want, it could be that we all try to create a question. We explore some of the content that is on there. We come up with more questions that we can go over. I can give you my contact information. And maybe also get some ideas that you can take to your colleagues and say, hey, like maybe we could work on something like this together. So the rest of these slides, I can show you real quick, but I really just put them there for you to be able to reference later. Because most of, as I said, I was going to just go on the platform, but I just want to show you what's here. Because if you do decide that, you know, you create some content and you want to integrate that in Canvas, I essentially put a step by step of how you can do this. So I don't think we're at the point that it makes sense right now for you to integrate this into Canvas. But you know, I've done this with colleagues a few times. It takes a few minutes and it's pretty straightforward because you just really follow the step one by one. And then I have some screenshots of what it looks like and stuff like that. So I just wanted to put it out there that it's here. So if you're like, oh, then what do I do with this course in MyOpenMath? Again, you know, it looks like a lot of steps, but everything is pretty self-explaining. I have this document that shows you exactly the same thing. But you know, I just wanted to just let you know that, you know, this can be shared, and there's a lot of also like, this is developed also from the MyOpenMath website because there's a lot of help on how to do a number of things, but I thought that would be an important step to share. So even if we don't get to this today, that you know where to find the information, because, you know, we can spend a lot of time developing a course, and then there's the last step of like actually linking it to your Canvas course. So this was more to show you like this is doable. The nice thing about integrating MyOpenMath into Canvas is so that's how we've been doing it at Skyline College, where I teach. The great thing is that once students are in your Canvas course, they can, sorry, this, sorry. Um, so they don't need to create a MyOpenMath account. So they will log into Canvas, access your course, and then that's all they need, because they will be able to see all the assignments directly from Canvas. They will not need to go to a different platform. If you prefer to keep things separate, that's also okay. You can have uh, um, you know, a key that they, you know, they use to then access the site, and then they, you know, they can create a student account and have access that way. I found it a lot easier to integrate in Canvas, just because it, the gradebook talks to, the Canvas gradebooks is connected to MyOpenMath. So if you, you know, give them, for example, homework through MyOpenMath, the gradebook will automatically show their grades when they complete their assignments. So I see a question about integrating with ADAPT at LibreText. And so absolutely. So a lot of the content actually has been transferred over. I don't know if that's the right way to say this, but is accessible from ADAPT. Usually, so my understanding, because I haven't used ADAPT very much at all, but my understanding from talking with some colleagues also in math is that you can sort of code the questions in MyOpenMath because you have access to sort of like all those tools, and but then I can be exported into ADAPT. So yes, there is an integration of MyOpenMath and ADAPT. I have not done this myself though, but I know it's been done, and I know that, for example, a lot of the templates that we had developed are also available in ADAPT. Any other questions? All right. So I hope that answered that. But yeah, I think that that's a nice feature. I think, okay, so for people who've done it, I think colleagues in chemistry were looking at this, and I think I could reach out to also more people to find out more information. But I know a lot of people at ASCCC, OERI, especially probably in there's somebody I think who's a lead for ADAPT, and maybe they've talked to you. They would probably have the answer. Um, all right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a sec because what I would like to do is go to the website.
I have a quick question for
Yeah.
the Canvas integration. I think I know the answer, but I just want to check.
Mhm.
Does the college need to do anything, like integrate anything in order for MyOpenMath to connect, or is it just
We
already there?
didn't have to do anything,
Okay.
so I know that each, district or college uses different Canvas settings, but as far as I know, so um, essentially there's an option to use an external tool, and that would count as one of those, and you can integrate it. So far, and I've talked to various people in different districts, and they've been able to do the integration without any issue. So I would say unless your district is very restrictive, I think that you would be okay. But that's something that then you could reach out to the team who, would be in charge of those things to make
Okay,
sure.
I can try it out and see how it works
Yeah,
too.
I haven't heard anyone saying that. That doesn't mean that they're not doing it, but I haven't heard anyone saying that they needed any extra steps or anything.
What I'll do right now for all of you here, and you feel free to, share. But I will share the link to the slides now. Because and um, okay, so this is gonna be the link to the slides. And within the slides, but I'll just copy that link as well with the document that shows you the step-by-step integration. And I will also share that in the chat, and that way the document might be easier. It's just that the slides have like sort of everything. And it's really quick. I can share with you the document so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's the same content that you saw in the slides in the document. But that's usually what I share with colleagues. And sometimes we'll just do it together and then go over the step. It's long because it literally shows every single step, but I know that I kind of prefer like more details than not. So it just, and once you do it once, it's really easy to repeat. So, the first time around, as you do anything for the first time, it can be a little like, oh, what am I doing? But yeah, so usually you would add your external tool. And so in here you can see it shows like, oh, MyOpenMath is there, but it's because it was added manually before. And it's one of those steps. So here you add an app, you call it, so uh I call it MyOpenMath because it's just easier. But you could call it something else if you wanted. And then you get the configuration URL, and that's how it's going to essentially create that link between the two. And again, I think that usually goes smoothly unless I know sometimes there's some restrictions. I know that there's some things that I've tried to do in Canvas and it's like, oh, our district does not allow, but for this it's not been an issue. So, but really good questions. Thank you. Anything else before we jump to the actual platform?
don't have anything for this, but when we go to the platform, I know we have like accounting here and economics and some biology, myself included. But also our physics instructors are kind of interested in looking into this. And one of the things they really want are these variable problems. I'm not sure what they might be called, but basically where you write a problem and then each variable gets randomly chosen for each student, and then it calculates like a new solution. So that I don't know if MyOpenMath does something like that, but that's something we're looking for.
So we have lots of that. So what I'm gonna do actually for physics and okay, I'm gonna just share again because I can show you what I'm sharing with you in the chat. So on here, so for physics, we developed templates. So it's a little bit difficult to find. So I just want to show you. But this is the OERI, like resources page. And so, it shows you all of the textbooks. And so you have to go all the way to the bottom. Like all the way, there's many OER resources for physics, which is awesome. But if you go to additional physics resources, then you have access to the templates that we developed. And there's actually more. But these are templates for courses that we've been using. So the nice thing is that, so this is for physics with algebra and physics with calculus. And there's also some astronomy. But those have been tested by, they were tested by number of faculty, but also like by a lot of students at this point as well. And so you get sort of this full, suite of problems, and they're pretty much almost all coded in that way with variables that you can randomize and that kind of thing. So, and that's definitely something that we can look at now. So I just wanted to point to this resource, and I know that, originally when we started this, there was not a lot for physics. So now we have this, but there's also like, since I think I've seen a lot more people using the platform, which means that there's also more than what's available from this, but this is a good start.
Are those first two the algebra based and the 200 ones the calculus based?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. The reason I'm pointing to these, so this was the result of the second grant. So the first ones are from the first grant. So the first ones are actually included in the second one. So I would highly encourage you to use the second one because they will have more problems. The first round, we had like sort of the bare minimum to offer homework, but not really with a choice of questions. So in the second round, we added more questions. So instructors had could pick which questions that they wanted to assign, instead of, having that limitation. So, and so if I go to,
Emily,
yeah.
Emily, I have a quick question from the page. So looks like the questions are from the OpenStax.
Yes, and they're all from OpenStax actually.
So does it mean that if I wanted to have questions from the OpenStax, is it possible for accounting here at MOM too?
So you mean,
There are lots of questions from the OpenStax,
yeah,
right?
yeah, but we so we ended up, taking the questions and coding them in my open
MOM.
in MOM. Thank you.
So is it automatically done, or you guys manually
No,
have
we did it. That was part of the grant because it was,
manually?
yeah.
Okay, that I don't want to do because
So
it would be too many.
yes, but it could be that maybe somebody's thought of doing that also before. So we had a team of people and it was like over a few months, and then that's why we have this grant to be able to do it.
Okay, makes sense. I think one of the reasons that I was asking whether we can integrate between ADAPT and MOM is because ADAPT already have all the questions in there.
Okay.
platform. So I just do not want to have duplicate, but then those one is
Yeah.
not covered in adapt, and I want to create the tables and variations and
Mhm.
etc.
So if you were adding a few, you could, I don't know if, because again, I haven't done development in Adapt, so I don't know if it can't be done in Adapt, and it's something that you could do um in Mom and then add on to what's already there for Adapt. That's probably possible.
That's well, yeah, that's what I was informed. So those things it was not supported by adapt, and I like to do that in Mom, especially those formula and tables and like Excel sheet typed from here. So that's
Mhm.
something that I'm interested in. So I'm gonna integrate that to adapt, so I can just integrate it, adapt it to Canvas. So I don't need to have two sources of a platform, but just one.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's a really good way to do this. What we can do, because, okay, as part of this exploration, you do accounting, correct? Because as we explored this,
Correct.
so now I'm in MyOpenMath, and you can see I have like too many courses because this is from all the testing, this is from all of the development, and also all of the courses that I teach. But there's a couple of things that can be done. So once you start, you'll see something similar. Your view may be a little bit different, but you have, you know, you probably don't have courses you're tutoring, but there's courses you're taking. And so these are the support course and the training course. So again, just really quick to go into the training course that will show you, you know, how to get started, create a course, and sort of how to navigate the platform. So there's a lot of information already here, and that potentially can answer a number of questions as you know, like further along, maybe, you know, once you create your assignment, there's so many things that you can, um, uh, you know, there's so many settings. It's amazing. I think I don't use half of them because you can really make this thing your own. But it talks about that, you know, in more details.
Okay.
But so what I would recommend, so when you go to the support course, so you can, so again, these are like forums that you can go to. You can also just click here. And I think I did a quick search. It can be too long because there's actually, the good thing is it takes a minute because there's just so much there. Oh, see, I had already looked. So it's not magic. I had looked it up before. So I think it stayed on my last search. So it's not reading my mind, don't worry. But I had looked because I remember like accounting being one of the disciplines. So this is a good place to start, I would say, because like, so I would look at the dates, because sometimes some of, you know, this has been around for quite some time. So some of the answers may be a little bit older, but you can see that there's actually some very recent. So you can see that this is also something that people, you know, are actively using now. But you know, there's a number of things here that can be, you know, that you can look at. And in some of these questions, sometimes people will point to a particular course. And so, for example, if you look at this one, somebody is looking for accounting questions, and this person is pointing to these course IDs. So if you're like, oh, I want to go check those out, that would be a good idea. So these are actually like small numbers, so they were probably sort of like started early or like a while back. So good news is that means people have been using this for accounting for some time. So that's good, because usually that means that we'll find a number of resources potentially. I'm gonna keep this open. I'm gonna just open another one. And what we can do now is say, okay, like, let's go check this out. So we can say, all right, I just want to actually copy this. And so this is, if I'm going too fast, please like stop, because I feel I started going very fast because they're like, oh, this is a repeat from last time, but I should probably slow down. So if I need to slow down, please let me know. So all I did now was go to add a new course. And again, so here you have a number of options. You can start with a blank course. I think I did this once at the beginning just to explore, and that's fine, but usually that can be just a lot because, it's like, how do I, how do I start? That can be too much. Or it could be, you start a blank course, but because you already know that you have all these other different courses and you want to copy things from those courses. And that makes also a lot of sense. Now, you can copy a template, or you can copy from a course, somebody, one of your colleagues is sharing a course, you can do that. So I just want to show you what happens when I click on those. So this was the copy a template. And when I do that, it just basically shows all of the things that are available out there. And so if I just start looking at this is a lot, and you'll see a lot of math. So if you're a math faculty, that's good. But then you can search by, so here you have a number of things already that you can pick from. I think I had checked accounting already here. Unfortunately, when I did that, there was no match, so not really helpful.
What does it mean? I did already. That's why I couldn't find anything. It's like, oh, there is some conversation there, but it's not. So none of those people maybe worked on it, but share with other people. That's how I need to see.
So it could be that it did not label it with accounting, and that's why it's not coming up in the search. That's might be what it is. Because sometimes, so if you have a textbook for it, like, so people will use different things to flag the template. So I'm guessing it's not that we just saw, right, that there's a couple of courses that have accounting, but nothing is coming up in the search. So it may just be that it's not shown by the level, because it is a little bit strange to be like, oh, level accounting, because you would think maybe it's more the content. So it could be that, somebody attempted to do that and then forgot about it or something like that. You can search by textbook. So again, you're not going to see necessarily all textbook, but if you happen to see the textbook that you use, then that's great. If you don't see, you can try to hit other, but again, it may not be, flagged there. So that's also okay. It's just that sometimes if oh, I want to search by textbook, you can do that. This is more by the type of courses, and then you can also do this. And this is, so what I find is that, this can work, but also it can be a little bit, difficult, because you have to like just look through a lot. And again, if you're a math faculty, it's easier to navigate because, you can see, right? There's a lot of, this was primarily used for math, and you can kind of tell. So if for non-math disciplines, that can be a lot harder to use. However, I just want to say real quick that if you're like, oh, I want to use this, you can preview the course and it will take you to, the content of the course, or you can copy the course and then it will create a template of that course in your account when you log in. Any questions? Because I think I saw somebody maybe unmute. I just want to make sure I'm not missing somebody's question. All right, but feel free to unmute at any point. So we can also do this. And if you remember from our search earlier, we had found that we have these course ideas that could be helpful. And again, if you're in a different discipline, you can also search in the forum and see, do you have a preference in which one we would like to preview? So we have 1272 or 4616. And this is more just for fun. So
Let's do 4660. Looks like the higher number is the latest
Mhm.
version.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So what we're going to do is say, okay, I'm going to look up this course ID and principles of accounting 2, and we're going to do a preview. So now it takes us to the preview, and we can see, so again, I don't know much about accounting, so hopefully it speaks more to you than me.
Seeing this
Uh,
makes me already excited, Emily. You cannot even imagine because I couldn't find anything, but now I see it, how to locate.
So happy. Okay, so do you have a preference on
Just
which?
go to anything, just says exercise, control of cash. The
All right.
very first one on top.
Part exercise. Okay, so for this, it shows us the preview of what it would look like, so you can see. All right, so this is more like,
True, false.
true or
Okay.
false. Okay, so question 2. So this is a match, right? So we have different definitions and we have to match.
Okay.
Okay, but I think I saw more with tables later, so because I already explored this one. So for this one, we had some calculations, it looks like. So let's see.
This
'Cause
is exciting. Now I know, but then I think I know how I locate it. And then I think my question now here is, okay, I like it, then what to do from here?
Yes. Okay. So what to do from here? That's a very good question. So let's see, because you can say, all right, so I like this. I think I could use some of this.
Yeah, let's say I like to use all of it because I can easily delete if I don't like, right? So let's say I like all this, then what to do from here?
So, are you logged in by any chance? Because
Yeah, I did.
okay.
Okay.
So you're doing the same steps I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, so we did the preview, but at this point, what I would do is actually hit continue, because what we're doing right now is we're adding a new course.
Mm-hmm.
So we picked, okay, so I've selected Principles of Accounting 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then now I'm gonna do continue. At this point, you're gonna have something like this, so it shows what you're copying, which
Mm-hmm.
edit, which makes sense, but
Mm-hmm.
you can pick your own name.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't necessarily need to worry about the enrollment key, but if you want, you can just put some name here. You don't need to memorize it. This is something that you'll be able to access later. So I'll do it with you. You can see that there's a number of options. I usually just leave it as is, but if you don't want the rubrics for some reason, you can uncheck those. These things you can set after you create the course, so I wouldn't worry about that necessarily. And this would also be for but again, you can worry about that later on. So and again, just to show you, there's almost too many options.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice because that means that you have features. So for example, late passes, you can give student late passes. So they know they have a number of late passes. And when they use one, they will have like 24 hours extra on their assignment, something like that. But those are all things that you can, make your own, and nothing that you have to decide right now. So, but just right now, I just want to show you an overview because there's just so many things
Mm-hmm.
in terms of even messaging between you and the students and stuff like that. So if we're good with this, then we can go to submit, and that's it. Your course is already been created. So it's created a new ID. So you can see that was a very early, because it was only 4 digits. Now we have 6. So, and that doesn't mean that, the course could have been created many years ago, but somebody who's created it may still be updating it and whatnot. So it can still change. But now you have your own version of it. So there's a number of things that are given here. I can show you where to find them. So we're going to go to this course now and take a look. But in the Canvas integration, it did ask for these things. So those are the, if you're like, what was the secrets? And so this is what it is. So, so let's go back. Now I don't know where okay, so I'm going to go home and now I'm going to look for that course. So mostly physics, but we have accounting here. So I'm going to click on this. Really quick before I do from here, if you want. This is one thing that I found that you can't do from within the course is add or remove a teacher. So if you are collaborating with somebody, you want to share the templates, you can click here and then, add them. If you have your group members, so this may be people at your institution who would show up when you click. But if you want to add somebody, so let's say you're using this as a test or you're working to develop questions with a colleague, or you want to, just have them within this course, that's one thing you can do. So now if I go in here, you can see that everything that we saw earlier is available from here. And so this is where the fun begins. And again, if you're not in accounting, you can follow the same steps. So either through the search or the forum, you can look for your discipline and see if there's anything there. And if not, we can also see, how you can develop some of these questions. And we'll also take a look at those, variable questions. But so I'm not super familiar with this one, but we can see. So this is my own version. Those are not my questions. So they were, if you go, so again, if you go back to the control of cash and the exercises, now, so if I click on this, it's going to show me, the preview. So I actually could start as a student. I could do a teacher preview. That's similar to what we had seen earlier. But
if we want, can we edit in the teacher
yes.
preview?
So you can't edit in the preview. What we're going to do now is, so we're going to click on this. And we can go to the questions. So it will list all of the questions. All right. So we can preview the questions. But we just did that. So what I want to do now is, so we can view the code. So we can take a look at the question. I can't edit this code, and that's a good thing because this is a question that was, created by somebody else, and I don't want to go mess up their question, right? Because it's their question. I shouldn't have a right to edit their question. So that's good. What I can do though is edit my, make a copy for myself and edit that. So I just did that. So what I did was edit my personal copy. What this does is create a new question. So now I have a new question that has been created. You can see that it basically has the same description, except that now it says local for me. So that's my name. And otherwise it shows the code for that question. So if you're like, I didn't like the wording, or, you know what, again, I don't know much about accounting. But this question now that you've essentially, like, you've made a copy of, you can go and edit. So that's a really good way to actually create a new question, because this could be, you creating a whole new question, but with the same formatting, or just, taking the question and slightly modifying it so it fits better, like, the way that, the definition that you've used in class and things like that.
This is really great. So I was thinking while I'm listening, maybe I copy a couple of them and change the wordings and make a group. So students get different questions, not the same questions, but then basically what I'm asking is the same.
So that's actually another another good thing that we can do is, so we can make multiple copies of this question that would be slightly different. And what we can then do is group them together and tell MyOpenMath to, you know, pick,
Randomly pick one
yeah,
out,
randomly
right?
pick one
Right.
of the lot. Yeah.
Right.
Randomly, each student will be assigned one of 5, right, that you've created that are slightly different. So they don't get exactly the same, but yeah. Also, depending on the type of question, so there's a number of things that you can do. If you're dealing with numbers that you're assigning, you can generate a new question. So usually what we do for physics homework is that, we'll have some numbers that they need to plug in into a formula. And the question, so this is just true or false, but I'm sure we can find an example.
Numbers. I think if you go to the lab, it says accounting function. There are a lot of questions, I believe. So
I'm gonna
this one we
do-
just save, assuming we
yeah,
change.
so we can save, and you can see now, this is the idea. You can see that there's a lot. It's that's one way you can tell that it's your, other than like it has the name. So you can see it replaced it, which is fine because that's what I intended to do. But you can also you can make another copy and have it multiple times. And let's say, if I had done this, and I can create a group. It may not be super, I can maybe show you a different example because there's only 3 questions here. So let me just, actually, what is nice is that it shows you here from this library all of the other questions you could have picked. So the ones that are grayed are already being used.
Oh, I see.
And you can see actually, like, this one was the original question, which is no longer there. But if I was like, oh, actually, I want to use both mine and the original, then you can, I have like, I'm going to say, okay, I want to add this one, this one, this one, and then I have the zoom annotate button that is over my add. Okay, so when you're not doing this on Zoom, you can click on this. Okay, there you go. And then it can add them here. But let's take a look at one of the lab questions.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, absolutely.
If you have the question there and you don't make a personal copy, does that mean it's tied to that other instructor still? So if they made an update, it would update in your assignment?
Yes, if they change a
Okay.
question, it will change it. Yeah. So so that can happen, because yeah, if they make any changes to their question, it's always going to call back that version of the question. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. So if you want to make sure, you can make, you can just copy them all, and even if you want to use them as is, then you have your own copy. Okay, so
go
let's
to the third one. I think it's the second one. Tell me before Emily, you go. There is what is this thing has a right before ID? Yeah, what is this sign?
So this one is not randomized, I believe, if I remember. Yeah, that shows not randomized, and actually they're nice. They tell you it's not randomized in the title. So, some questions we can take a look at what this is. This is asking, so again, we can look also, like, because that can be very intimidating when you look at this code at first. But this is the bulk of like so question text, right? And it shows you, but at this point, you can see the numbers have been hard coded in here. And I don't even know if those are numbers that are used, because again, not an expert here, but these have been hard coded instead of being entered as variables, which means that there's going to be one answer, and so that is not randomized. But the fact that the sign is not here for the other two means that those 2 questions are randomized. You can also see that, so we have multi-part questions for all three, but you can also see that it records the average time that it takes for students to answer this question, which can be nice when you are assigning, if you're trying to figure out, okay, I want this assignment to take 30 minutes. So I know, how long these questions take on average. I will say that this data is going to be gone the instant you make a copy of that question, because now it's a new question and there's no data on that question. So this number will be gone. So if you're wondering like, oh, there was a 12.8 and now it's gone, this is because now you've created a new question. And so there's no data on how long students have taken to answer that question.
Got it. Emily, so let's say number 2, bank reconciliation. If I click preview, I can see what it looks like, what students see, right?
But yes, exactly. So I think for me, it popped, a new window popped up, so you probably can't see. But what we can do, I think it doesn't do that if I show you the teacher preview. So now we can see, so you can see that here, that's why it was not randomized, because you can see like that makes sense.
So this is what student will see.
Yes, so this is actually the teacher preview, because I clicked on teacher preview, but this is what students see. And if it's
Okay, got it.
created in Canvas, basically will be within your Canvas shell. But it would look exactly like this without everything. MyOpenMath would be gone, and what they see is just everything in this window.
From control over cache. Okay, got
Yes,
it.
exactly, yeah. And again, there's different ways you can do this, because in the teacher preview by default, it shows you all of the questions all at once. But you can change it for students where they see all the questions, they see one question at a time, they can go back and forth between the questions or not. So that's completely customable.
This is beautiful. This is exactly what I was looking for, but I don't know how to create what I see, like a bank reconciliation. And this is something that I'm looking, but I don't know how to create. I think that's something that I want to learn.
Well, then, perfect. So, okay, so just for everyone to see, so this is what question 2 looks like when you take it. I just wanted to show you, because when we look at the code, it's not going to, I mean, it's going to look somewhat like this, but it's kind of nice to see like the end result before we see the code.
But here, Emily, here, numbers here is a solid number or different numbers from each student. That's what I wanted to also understand too.
So this should be, so let's take a look at the code. So we can't really tell from this because it just created a version for us. One way to try is to reset and see if we get different numbers, but it's a lot quicker to actually go to the question. So we were looking at this question. So let's take a look at, we're going to do just view code. Again, we can create our own copy, but for now, let's just view the code. So first indication here, these lines are going to create random numbers. So you can see we have this variable called note that's going to be some number between 325 and 475. And I think it's by increments of 25. So that means that the number that gets created will be 325, 350, 375, etc., up to 475. If I remember this from coding.
Yeah, I think I see what they've done. So it's a variation. So this is not fixed number, but then they give the range of randomized number for each.
Correct. So that
problem.
means that for each, the local cache, the note, so it will create a new number, a different number for each student
Okay.
when they open their assignment. So same, so you can see, so local cache is random, node is random. These two are also random numbers. So all of these are randomly generated.
That's good. That's good.
And there's a number of things you can add. So we can also look at different types of questions, but there's you can define, if you want, actually, no, 25, because you can also decide like, so I think they're counting 5 by 5 here. you can fix the number of decimal numbers and stuff.
Right. So in other words, Emily, what I hear from you is when I copy this problem, I can change the numbers. Instead of 50, I
Yes.
can make it 49. Instead of 220, maybe I make it from 1900, right?
Yeah,
I can
that
change
you could.
the
Yeah,
variation.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And if you're like, actually, you know what, I want this number to be fixed, then you would
Mhm.
just say equal whatever number you want
Got
and
it.
keep the rest random. And then so these are all, so all the names with a dollar sign in front of them are variables. And so you can see like this, I'm guessing this is true balance. This is, you know, the sum of these. And at this point, you can see that all of those were defined before. And usually what's going to happen is, so we do all of the variables, you know, definition and the calculations in this part that's called common control. Okay. So this is probably the trickiest part, meaning that this is where the coding is going on. But you know, if you're trying to do like small tweaks, like, oh, I want these values to be different, you can usually, you know, pretty much see, like read off of the, you know, if, especially if depending on who codes the questions, you may have a lot of comments that actually explain what everything is and stuff like that and make it easier to read. But usually you can also figure out just, you know, based on the rest of the question. So so this is sort of all the calculations, and then you can see where all of this is going. So this is more complex because this generates a table that we saw. So that's why, you know, you have all of these stuff here. And then the answers, again, that where the students would enter the number that they need to. If you look at the question, you can see that it will call out some of those variables that we just, you know, local cache and stuff like that. So we know that when we read this question, cash balance, then it's going to show the number that was randomly generated here. So that is the part of the, you know, the question that the students will read. And again, right, so you could create a new variable and change that if you wanted, but this is where those numbers are going to show up. And we just saw that all of these were randomly generated. And again, based on, you know, the values that were given at the top of the code.
This is fantastic, but only problem is I'm not a programmer. So if I have idea what kind of questions that I'm gonna create, if it is not this format and different format, how I will be able to create from the scratch?
So I'll tell you, because I didn't really start by like necessarily know. So again, we didn't pick the easiest one to look at because you can see there's so many variables.
But you know, counting, this is one of the easiest problem. We have a lot of numbers, so we need to have so many variations. I don't know how I can do, whether it will be, instead of being, I'm not a programmer. I understand exactly what was happening, but if I need to copy this, I think I will be lost because I need so much training to be a programmer to create this. Is there any like easier way?
So I would say, okay, so if you, because all you need is okay, so let's go back again to the preview. As long as you see something that looks like, you know what, so if most of your questions look like something like this.
Yeah, but then this is one of the easy ones. We have way more blanks they need to filling in.
Yes. So what I would do, so for something like this, right, there's a question 3 has even more. So it is for sure. So what I would say, and also because, you know, we're starting, and I guess with accounting, there's just a lot of variables. But when we go to the questions, and again, let's say, okay, I'm going to take then question, I guess we're just looking at question 2. So let's say, okay, I'm going to edit my personal copy. So at this point, if you have questions where it's like, okay, the text is easy, more or less, right? Because you can just, so this is HTML, like with where it's gonna, but you don't really need to know how this is programmed. Because if you're like, okay, I'm gonna adapt this template,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm gonna talk about a totally different topic. I just want to keep this format of this table, but now I'm gonna change all the words, and then I'm gonna change these variables. So if you have a good template that you're
Mm-hmm.
working with, again, looking at this is very intimidating, but I will tell you, like, most of this you don't need to touch, because all of the stuff that is wrapped around, that's sort of that basically just builds up like, so this is where the table is built with the borders and all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
you can see that, like, you don't need to actually understand like what all of these things are doing. Um, but if you're like, oh, okay, it has 2 columns, I want to add one more, then you can modify this. All the text is easy to find and modify. So if you're like, okay, I want exactly the same table, except now it's going to say this and that, because this is what this question is now going to cover. So all of, again, like, I would try to just, maybe we can start with something simpler, and then just try to create your own question and see. Yeah, that's why. So it is very intimidating, but that's why, like, you can do tables, and more complex things. And it's because, like, having something like this is going to take a bit of code. But if you accidentally mess up the code, so you can go back to earlier versions. I think there is, um, thing. Usually, so what you can do is also just, usually what I do is I create several copies. So I have, like, for example, I would keep the original question, and then, so most of the questions that we coded for physics, I started with a template. So I never started a question like blank. So I found a question that looked as close as possible to the question I was coding. And then I changed the text, and I changed, the equation, because, like, okay, like, it could be like, now I am calculating something different. But the core of the coding is going to be on something like this. And I'm sure that, if you're using essentially a different formula, these are fairly, straightforward. And there's also a ton of documentation. Um, and I'm trying to see also how you can go back to a previous, and actually I may not be able to see because this is just viewing the code. No, this is my version. No, this is my copy. But maybe it's because I haven't created, like, saved it. But I think you can go back to other version. But I would really encourage you to, try.
Okay, I will. Actually, I will. And I'll most likely start with the copying from someone else's template. And then, but then only problem is I'm talking to myself, is this really accounting professor created? I think they have somebody help them. This is so complex for my standards. Not as a computer
And I
programmer.
can tell you, so I think I've seen this name on the forum a lot. So I think, and again, right, you can see this is somebody who's been using this for a long time. So
Yeah,
again,
I can tell. I know there are some I can use, but then, like, let's say I like that, but I wanted to add one more, like, the like a
mhm.
column, then I don't even know how to create one more column based on what I read
So
from here.
that's fine. So let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the
Whether
core.
there are ways that we can do it easily. It's like when I see the coding, I'm like, I'm lost. I took
So
only one program class in my entire
you're
higher
good.
education, my life.
And even, yeah, no worries. So we're looking at this, right?
Mhm.
So I think we saw these names
Yeah,
in
those are, but
the
then this is one of the easy ones. But then
so that's
in
easy.
accounting, yeah, there are so many complexities and we need add and subtract and
Mm-hmm. So okay, if you want, we can also explore. I don't know if some of these other are these.
like a click lab, because lab is pretty much all these numbers, I believe. Like,
So
yeah, there, property, plant and equipment.
okay, so let's see what this looks like. So this has a lot of
Nothing. Those are easy, but then there is a tables.
this are,
Like those are no, these are all journal entries. That's not my worrisome, because journal entries I can just copy and paste their template.
like this. Again, I don't know. So
Yeah, just click that. I'd like to see what they got. You know, just like my worrisome is if it is those journal entries, those are pretty simple.
okay, so let's
Oh,
see.
oh, this is all journal entries. Journal entries, those ones are pretty simple. Oh yeah, here, this one. Let's
This
say
one.
common stock. There are 3 lines. Let's say I wanted 2 more. How I'm gonna do that?
So you want two more where? Here
Like, yeah,
or
like there are 3, right? Left and right. But what
Mhm.
if I wanted 2 more in the bottom and shows total? Like how I can do
Okay.
those?
So let's take so I would say, okay, so we're going to take a look at question 2 out of the stockholders equity lab. Okay,
Emily, is it all HTML?
so let's take a look at the question and then I can show you. So this was this one. So we're going to just view code for now. And then, so this is not HTML. The HTML is going to be here when it's basically building the code that's going to be, or like, what is being viewed by the students. So this is where, and okay, here is something that I can show you. You can also do it this way.
Oh, so
And
you
change,
click toggle editor to see
yeah.
whether it's properly
And
done. That's what I was looking for, Emily.
okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I figured I just realized
Okay, now I know, because
because
that was my worrisome. It's like I changed it,
sorry.
but then where it shows, because I copy and paste it, I can get it, but where I see now, okay, now it makes sense to me.
And now I'm
Toggle
like, are we
editor.
looking at the same? Okay, yeah, so this is okay. And sorry, I should have done this. I always code in this view, so that's my bad. But yeah, this is a lot easier. But also you can see that this actually doesn't show everything because it's just pointing to like some other things that are, so like this thing, for example, is I think what you're trying to modify.
What added more
The
columns
JE,
to
so
it?
journal entries. Or whatever else. So this was because, right, that was just journal entries, and then you will need to change some of
Yeah,
these
I
things.
wanted to add more columns of what to do.
So just really quick, right? So you can see, again, if we go to this editor, this was the text that was shown. This, showed the entries with the, so you can see, again, we have these variables because we have things that are randomized again. And you can see again the name of the variables here. So now if I go to, so this is the actual code, right, that goes in, and so you can see these variables being again like defined up here with random numbers. And so then you can see, right, you can sort of follow the logic of what was shown I think in the tables that, again, I'm exploring this for the first time with you all. So there's this JA, and then we had like make journal, which was JE, which was what was displayed. Again, if we recall from this, this was what was showing up here with the journal entries, and you can see it being built like, right here. So JA is make journal using this JA. So this is where all of these things are defined. And again, this was the table which had each of the dates, but that was not the one that you wanted to modify, right? So we were looking at, I think the common stock. And so this was again a table where students were supposed to enter a number of values, I think, and so we have this array, and again, now I forget what it looked like, but we had common stock, and this is one of the other variable, retained earnings, paid in capital excess. I need to just pull the questions. So I can do a quick and safe preview, but you are not going to see it. So I could share maybe. So this was a number in dollars. So that's why like there's a dollar sign, but it's because that was a dollar amount. And
Okay, got it.
was dollar PV, that's the variable.
Okay,
So
call the
that would
variable.
be like some number of dollars par. I don't know if that means something. And then so we had three tables. We had the common stock, and then that's all in one name. So you can see the quotes. So that was the label for the first table that we had under the journal entries. And then we have the retained earnings. And then the third one was paid in capital in excess of per value common stock. So again, that's a name that doesn't have any randomized variable. And so again, you could modify that. So if we had three tables, I forget what you wanted to change. If it was you could add another one. But I think what you wanted to change was the number of rows.
Yeah, adding more.
So adding more rows. So again, so I'm discovering this with you. So
But in other words, I think what I wanted to hear was, okay, if I wanted to hit here, this is a place where I need to add more codings, right?
so this is where all of this is happening. Yeah.
Okay, so whatever, if I wanted to add or delete, and I need to come in, play around and click toggle editor and to show whether it reflects.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. At least I know where I need to go.
Yes.
Emily, that's what I wanted to understand.
Um,
Because I need to play around again a lot about
Yeah.
how those things are working, because it's just all programming language to me.
Okay, so I have a few questions in the chat. Okay, so is the top code Python? I actually don't know where this is coding it. I don't believe, but I'm not gonna say because I'm not sure actually. I will throw it out there that I mean, I have programmed a number of things, but I don't think. And then, can you please add another T account so that we can see how it will be done? Okay, so I see. So I can try. I can't necessarily this is totally new to me, so I can try. I mean, we can try and see what kind of errors also we get, because that's also interesting. So what I'm gonna do, this was the second question. Yes. So I'm gonna edit my personal copy. I will probably break it, just so you know, but that's okay, because I think it's also interesting to see what happens. So I think we're good with all the journal entries here, and then we said we could. Wait, I went too far. Okay. Let's see more. Sorry, I was like, yeah, there's also, okay, so in addition to the, so there is writing questions help. Wait, let me, okay, open a new window, so I'm just gonna put it in a new tab. I don't know if that's gonna help or make it more intimidating, but I would say at the very least, if you're like, okay, so I'm on the wrong question, sorry. If you're like looking at this and be like, what is this function? I do not understand. So let's say we were looking at this, right? We have, I think that's why I'm like, this might be very specific. Because I feel like that, I don't know where this is coming from. So let me see if something was, okay. So this is why it's not familiar to me, because there is a library called, so this is good news actually, because that means that somebody created a library for accounting. And because I will tell you that if I look, I'm pretty sure, I don't know all of the functions of MyOpenMath add-on, but this sounded very specific. So that's why I was like, I am not sure, but I bet you, because when we looked at the question, I think the person who created this question was in the forum, I think as like a week ago or something, when we looked at this question or the course. You know, you can ask like how to build this up, because this, and again, you were right, I think, to say that this is somebody pretty advanced because they've created their own functions. So yes. But otherwise, most of the other things you will find in the MyOpenMath help. I can also put this in here. But I think, you know, this particular function that we were trying, you know, what we're trying to modify here is something that was created specifically for accounting. And there's a library that's specifically for this. So again, I've never used this function. But we could, you know, try to figure out, you know, what it calls and that type of thing. So this is, now we're going like in like, you know, totally new territory for me as well. But I'm sure, like, I don't know if we can look for documentation on this. But otherwise, if I'm looking, okay, so for example, we're creating an array or something like this, I could, you know, look for array, and there's an array macro. Or if I go back here and I click on this, these are all of the type of things that you can create, which probably more information than you need to have. But you know, if you're copying it from a question and you're like, what is this, you know, function doing? In addition to that, like in terms of, because we had questions about creating, you know, random numbers. So there's many ways to do this. But you can see that this is, you know, a fairly detailed documentation on, you know, how, you know, to create things that, you know, maybe you never need for your discipline. But again, you know, sometimes like where I'm entering some like math formulas and I'm like, oh, how do you enter this function? But you have a lot of, you know, information that's available here, like randomizer. So I think we looked at some of these, and then it tells you exactly what, you know, the arguments are going to be needed. So this is an array and this is for a single number. And it's like, why do you have all these options? And they explain, you know, what they're for right here. So, again, so if we look at this particular thing, so we have this function, this make T charts from journal. So the way I'm gonna, you know, be reading this is that it takes as input this, you know, so those are the journal entries, right, that we had decided, like, okay, so this was like by all of these dates. Again, not being an accountant, sorry, like if I'm just saying things that are completely obvious or saying it the wrong way. But it calls for those journal entries, and then we call for an array, and these are the names of the three tables that followed. So the common stock, dollar amount par, retained earnings, and the last one. So I'm going to assume that, you know, we could add something here. and it would create a fourth one. That would be what I think would be the logical answer. And then, you know, all of these things are actually things that are defined elsewhere. So we can actually see, so answer types, show answer, display format. And so all of these have to do with, you know, the way that students are going to enter the numbers. So you can see that they're defined. So we have answer defined here. And again, this, I believe, is very specific to this problem. So, and like me not being a part of the, you know, in the discipline, it probably makes a lot more sense to you, hopefully. But I'm guessing that, so if I only add something here and I don't add, you know, the rest of the things that need to be edited, because I'm guessing that with an extra table, I need to enter more, you know, values that students need to enter. Otherwise it's gonna not match, right? We could try to run it and just add something, but let's just say, okay, I'm gonna put for stable again, I don't know. And then do a quick save and preview, and it's okay. So I need to stop sharing so I can share the correct window. It did create something. So this is the preview that I got when I did this. So I saved, so you can see that it did create this. So it did something, but you can see that it also gave me some errors. And I think this is because we didn't update the rest of the code. So usually, so you can see that it was able to display, but I think that some of the variables are now missing because now we have all of these new things, but we didn't really mention. And I think at this point, this is more about me not knowing, you know, about this particular problem. And I don't know if, but you can get a sense of, again, how you can go in and edit, I think.
Thank you. At least we get an idea.
Yes.
We get an idea. We can start from the existing template and try to use it. And then I know there is a limit that we can use it as a previously available template, but then we use it, whatever is available for now, and then we can expand more.
And what I would also say, so you can try, absolutely. And again, if you're making small changes, like you just change, you know, the text and things like that, that should not be too bad. If you run into something where it's like, hey, like, I'm trying to modify this question, I would like it to do this, and I haven't been able to so far, you could ask in the forum.
Got it.
You can also reach out to me again when it's something where it's like a new function that was, you know, defined by somebody else. I'm not sure, but you can actually reach out to the author and say, hey, like, I really like your question. I'm trying to do this. How would you go about it? And you know, you can see like they're pretty like they respond pretty quickly.
Thank you.
It's a
I
very
feel, I know it's, the coding itself is a little bit intimidating, but at least I know where to start and what to gather for now. So that's a really great starting point for us. That's really good because now I see there are so many variations we can use. And then from there, we just need to grow from there. At least we know where we are.
And maybe I can show you some of our physics examples because I think that, yeah, the coding for accounting, because there are so many variables, it looks like a lot, but I had also shared, so in the slides, there is a template that I developed just for this. That's an intro to MyOpenMath. And so I'm gonna, so I just selected that course. I just want to show you again, because so at this point it's grown a bit because there is sort of, so again, this is kind of nonsense. This is not an actual real class, but the way this is set up is, again, if you're looking for so I'm gonna click on this and say, okay, I want to this type of question is more a template that you can modify, and sort of like those are easier, like very simple questions that are easier to modify. And we'll take a look at the code in a second, but just to show you that the code doesn't always I think those like big questions with all the tables, we started with something that was definitely like more intimidating than some of the other things. But it also shows you like, okay, this is multi-part question, and sort of highlighting, okay, like part A, part B, and C. The reason I bring this up is because that was one of the reasons that we gave up on Canvas quizzes, because we didn't find a way to do this, and we asked for support, and then find out like somebody had asked the exact same questions like 4 years prior, and we're like, okay, so we need to find something else. But so we can take a look at the code for those ones, because I think maybe that might be a good place to start with questions that are maybe like, you can see the code here is fairly straightforward. And we put a lot of comments so that each line, basically you can see like what we're doing. And again, not helpful if you're right away like, I'm gonna go dive into like more complex questions. But if you're just getting started and maybe create a simple quiz or something like that, just to check it out and try, you can access those questions. And so you can see again, same structure as what we were looking at before, except a lot simpler. So like here we have a paragraph, we have the question, and the answer box is generated where the students are going to answer the question, and then this is what is going to be read and compared to the actual solutions. These are silly questions. They're really there just to show you the types of questions, and we label them as like, okay, so this is multiple choice, this is a multiple answer question, ranking task. Again, depending on your discipline, some of these may be more useful or not. As we saw before, you can see that these two do not have randomized variables. All of the other ones do. You can see there's another icon on this one. And this is because for this one, so again, I can show you like, so this is again a very simple, not a whole lot going on in this question. But you can add, so we didn't explore really this part yet, but you can add a detailed solution. So this was not done here. What we've done for a lot of questions is that we link to the chapter in the textbook. So you can have a help button that's going to essentially go to, in this case, a video. It could go, for a lot of our questions, we'll go to the chapter in OpenStax, or whatever, like you can essentially point to a URL, or like change the type of help that you want to provide for the students. And if you create these questions, you're like, oh, but I want to use this question on an exam, so I don't want to have the help button. You can also decide again, if it's going to, you can choose this in the settings. you know, a whole a number of things. And one of those is like, you know, if you want to have to show the, so here by default, we're going to show the hints and the, you know, the buttons for help. But you can remove that. And again, so many things, right? You can customize, you know, how it's graded. You can have students try as many times as they want and not lose credit. Or you can tell them, okay, well, after 10 trials, you're going to start losing 10%. You know, so a lot of things that can, that are, you know, that you can change from here, and then that will translate directly into, you know, Canvas, because the grade will then be calculated when they complete the assignment. And then it will show up in the Canvas gradebook. And there will be also a gradebook in MyOpenMath, but only you will be able to, you know, go in and see that. So you can see, for example, for this course, I have a gradebook here. And then, oh, with some of you who've added maybe, and then I can see. So sometimes that's also convenient because you can, you know, check out students' work and see, it actually shows the, you know, previous answers they've entered. And so you can see, oh, I can see you're a factor of 2 off or something like this. And it makes it pretty easy to sort of see their train of thoughts, because you can really see like what they've tried before. These are some samples of the, you know, the OpenStax questions. So I don't know if I just picked a random one. But you can see again for you know, people in physics, or, you know, most of the disciplines who want to have, you know, randomized number. So here we have a random variable. So this again is like any number between 340 and 350 by increments of 1. And I think this says no decimal numbers, so you can also pick that. And let's see, you know, for this one, what was the, so we were calculating the speed of sound. So you can see that we have a simple like calculation, and you can also customize a number of things. So you can see this is a 3% tolerance. So again, this is very physics specific, but for a lot of calculations, you know, there may be some rounding errors and things like that. So you can also account for that, where if you're like, oh, I don't want to be like, you know, there may be some variation because they use, so here g is the acceleration due to gravity, which, you know, 9.8, but then some people will use like 9.81. For our conceptual classes, we use sometimes like we simplify to the max and we say like it's 10. So if you want to cover all of those different cases, you can add a tolerance where it's going to accept any number between, like, you know, the actual value and plus or minus 3% of that value. So again, a lot of things, because when, you know, that's the kind of thing that sometimes students will complain and say, hey, like, I was really close, but this counted wrong, even though like I'm, you know, this is my calculation. And technically, if you feel like, oh, their answer was correct and, you know, it should have accepted that, that's what you can use to make sure that it's like it, you know, it takes into account these scenarios. Or if it's like, no, this should be like this exact number, and you know, you can also reduce that or have it been gone. Okay, we have about 20 minutes, so I just want to make sure that, you know, I'll cover any questions that you may
Emily, I
have.
have a question from the page that you're showing. Scroll
Yeah.
up a little bit. It says up.
Yeah. Whoops. What can I? Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
right here. It says a user, right? It says private. Does it mean that I don't share with anyone? I'm the only one who's using?
Yeah, so I don't remember what, yeah, so I think if you are,
So I copy someone else's and I make a little bit modification and I
mhm,
can use it. But then if I like to share, I just pick the last group out of 3 or
yes,
4.
yeah,
So
and
those ones we were able to see is because the creators decided to share with us.
yes, and usually, so I think, okay, I need to like, I haven't done this in a while. Um, yeah, and I think that's fine. I just wanted to make sure it was not a case where, people can edit, because that would be bad, because, you still want, but no, you're right. I think so. I think for this one, as long as you have, because you can still copy the template and everything, because like I gave you the key. But I think, yeah, I think that means that it's not showing up in like the bank of questions, essentially. And that
But
might
then,
have been done on purpose because it's like kind of silly, but yeah.
right. But if let's say you copy mine and you make a change, you
Mhm.
don't really make a change on the original creator.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
no,
believe description, I see the attribution you guys given if the question is from OpenStax.
mhm.
Okay, that
Yeah.
was my second question, but I see the attribution here. That's really good. Okay.
Emily, if you're creating a new question, do you start by coding in the common control box or the question text box to build the question?
So I rarely do that. So I usually start from something that's already, so for
Okay.
me, usually what I would do is say, okay, I'm building, like something like, because now there's enough questions that I have access to, that I'll now look at like, okay, what type of question am I trying to build? And then I'll make a copy, and then I'll start from something that's already, that has something that I can modify. But you can do either. So essentially so let's see, we
I
can,
didn't see anything in economics looking through the options, so it looks like I'd have to build it from scratch.
okay. You could also put something in the forum and ask, because sometimes, it could be that there's something but nobody's shared, or that they would be willing to share, or something that they're currently working on. Because yeah, it can be a lot, like once you like, if you're starting from scratch, again, depending on the level of, difficulty of coding.
But then I've coded in R and it looks kind of similar to R, at least on the common control area. I don't know HTML, so that's why I was curious if I would have to learn that to build questions.
No, so I would say, so again, I should have shown you like this stuff. So you can use this, but I found if you can code in R, like again, what I've usually tend to do, and that was also because we were working with several people, um, and so we wanted to have a cohesive look. So we had sort of the same HTML code for all of the questions.
Mhm.
And it just, so again, you could find a template that you like, and then for the HTML part, then all you have to do is change the text. Eventually, and I think if you're coding in R already, like there's a lot of things that you can figure out like fairly like easily, like like this is just creating a paragraph, and then and then just from looking at examples, it's fairly straightforward, I would say. And again,
You
you can always
can
go,
type directly into the toggle editor though for the
yeah, you can also, yeah, absolutely, you can
okay.
do that in here. Yeah. I'd say, yeah, usually, and right, you can do most of these things. For
Mhm.
whatever reason, I guess yeah, this would actually be easier. For whatever reason, I usually like do it in here, but I don't know why. So yeah, you don't have to like, um, so yeah, definitely, I think doing it in here would be
But
easy.
then the top part is where you actually create the algorithms that generate the
Absolutely. Yeah. So
okay.
this is the sort of the behind the scene, and this is sort of the what's student facing, like the way that the question is going to show up for the students.
But if you're writing a new question, you would have to set up the entire the top part, which looks kind of like a Python version, You'd have
Correct.
to code that all for a new question, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So for each question, there will be that
Mhm.
code. Yeah.
Sure.
And again, I would say, I think for us, it was like, you know, the first few questions you spend more time on because you're trying to, really figure out, um, what everything is. And usually then we would have a lot of questions that were similar. And
Mhm.
then just modifying was easy until, you run into something new that you haven't done before that you want to do. But it was also kind of a fun challenge, but it can be time consuming for sure. So depending on the level of complexity that your question is going to have, I would say either it could be like fairly simple, or you may be spending more time on those. But I would also say that we had used homework systems that students had to pay for. And yes, they did come with some question banks and stuff like that. But if you wanted to modify any of them, it was the same thing. And the code was actually very similar in the way that it was written. So you
Mhm.
had also the same like two parts, and so we had already like we were kind of already used to editing some of those questions. And I think it was actually kind of more complicated because this is all open and very easy, versus, for some of those other homework um, systems, depending on the book you adopted and things like that, you only had access to a given set of questions. And if you pick something for a different textbook, either you couldn't see it or it would be an issue. So this is very flexible.
Mhm.
So, um, and yeah, to build up the whole, all of the templates for all the courses, it did take some time, but we've now been using it for, 5 years. And it's been really, really solid. So, been nice. So, um, I don't know if I scared you all or if but I also, I'm gonna drop my email. I think I had like posted it before. But you have my email in the chat. Also, if you need any support, getting started or with questions, again, I mean, not have the answers necessarily, but we can look at it together. And I think it is a very powerful platform because I haven't yet explored all of the things that it can do. And now I have colleagues who've already, starting to build more complex questions, and they're like, it's like, oh, we can do this too. And our next step for we want to also move all of our labs to using MyOpenMath, where essentially converting all of our lab reports to things that students can, so they can enter their data and stuff like that. And also have that integrated easily. So we're just starting to, because again, it takes time. But it's been very good for us. So, and again, depending on the discipline and what's already available, it may be more work and time to get started. But there's a lot of support out there. So any other questions, concerns, or anything?
We want to turn the recording off from the last 10 minutes, maybe, if people want to ask anything.